So what are people doing who are winning versus people who are not winning? If you're not winning, you're doing something wrong. People who are winning are doing something differently than what you are doing. That's one thing that I've learned. We've learned it in life, right? Weight loss, getting stronger, winning on the wrestling mat, winning in jiu-jitsu. Maybe you're in sales and someone's winning and you're not. They're doing something different than you are. And we can't be hard-headed and just say, well, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm just going to go harder. That might be the case. If you look in the mirror and say, you're lazy, you don't deserve to win. Okay, working harder is probably the answer. At least it's step number one. But what happens is we just go to that default. Even coaches do it. It drives me nuts. We just going to work harder. I'm like, you've coached for 12 years. You've never won. Let's just not go harder. Let's figure something out here. Same thing as an athlete. So if you feel like you're going hard and you're putting time in, I would say as a general statement, because, number one, if you're not winning, you got to look at your weaknesses versus mine. My weaknesses may be differently than yours, right? But as a general statement, in the sport of wrestling or jiu-jitsu also, the people who are winning are doing two main things. They're mastering the core skills of wrestling. So we know what the 80-20 rule is, right? I forget who invented that, what the name is, or the phrase or the law. But basically, 80% of your strength comes from 20% of the lifts. You don't want to do reverse wrist curls. We don't need that. Now, if you're a bodybuilder, you want to do the little stuff, right? So 80% of your success comes from 20% of what you do. Well, we say there's a 95-5 rule. That's how you get to be top 20 or 30 in America. And then we start to work into 80-20. Then we start to cover more course, advanced wrestling. But for you, generally, I would say in any endeavor, now obviously like gymnastics is like wrestling. It's big. There's a lot of skills you have to learn. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, certain sports. Baseball, there's not a lot of skills. If you just learn, to hit the proper way to, the core skills of baseball, you're going to be fine, okay? But those sports, this core skills they're not really skill sports. A lot of it's based on athleticism and even size nowadays. Certain sports. A football lineman doesn't have to know a whole lot of stuff, okay? He doesn't need to know all the stuff that a gymnast needs to know. A gymnast who is a level 10 gymnast who was headed to D1 famous college gymnastics, she's got to know a lot more techniques and moves and tricks than a football lineman. Those sports are just based upon sheer size, right? You're born 6'6", you're halfway fast, boom, you're worth 200 grand college scholarship. Not knocking football or baseball, but they're sports of low skill. You can almost just have to be born, in a position where you can have success in those sports. Whereas wrestling, jiu-jitsu, gymnastics, these are sports of very high skill. And this can be overwhelming at times. So what we say is this: all over America, we have 17, 18-year-old kids drilling half Nelsons. And we have 5, 6, 7-year-olds drilling underarm spins, or how to score from a Russian 2-on-1. It's completely stupid. As you become more advanced, then we venture out of the 95-5 rule. See, we talk about 95-5. 95% of your points come from 5% of the wrestling. Those are core skills, the best handful of ways of scoring from the most common positions. And then you enter into phase 2, then phase 3, right? We have our phases. If you're a member of our online wrestling academy, you know that. And I think it comes out to right around, actually I know it is, 78 wrestling techniques that we have at our 14-day Dream Season Camp, which is sold out 19 out of 20 times it's been offered. Now our 5-day camps are basically 95-5. Our bigger camps are like 80-20, right? We cover more stuff, including the core skills. So as a generally, what you need to do is you need to say, what are the main positions in the sport of wrestling? What's the best 2 to 3 ways to score from there? Write those down, or you can get our online academy if you had interest. Purlerwrestling.com, you can get that there. And then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to hit 100 reps of everything. Then I'm going to go back and do it again. Then I'm going to go back and do it again. And like magic, you'll start winning. Then, you're like, okay, something's still missing. Okay, well, you know what? I could lose 5 pounds. 12, a little bit flabby. High school kid, I'm a little bit flabby. How about that weightlifting? How's that going? Marcus, how's that weightlifting going? Jenna? I basically don't do it. Okay, well, now that's going to cost you, okay? So let's start lifting those weights. And then you start attacking these other very important but kind of auxiliary types of areas. Then you're like, well, I suck at cutting weight. I suck at recovering from a loss. I get too nervous before a match. I can't. I lock up. Okay, there we go. See, we've got the technique and the positions down, pat, and now we've lost a little bit of weight and we're getting stronger. Oh, how about flexibility? How about footwork? Okay, I need to start doing that too. Okay, let's study a little bit of the sports psychology side of wrestling. Our YouTube channel will help you with that tremendously. Okay, I'm going to fix that. I'm doing better with weight loss now. Oh, I looked at Nick's YouTube channel. Now I know how to cut weight for matches. Wow, it's like freaking magic. This guy knows everything. I just learned it from other people, and I'm the one that puts it together for you guys for free and throws it out there on YouTube. Oh, man, so guess what? Heck, I've won a couple state titles. I go to national tournaments, and I'm making the finals. I'm placing. I might win some of them. What has happened? Well, guess what? You started to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So now outside of the fact, if you're a 12-year-old and you look like you're 8 and you're just like a flabby kid, you might be 6'4", making $1 million a year playing football. So you just need the maturity. So some of us have the maturity gap, right? Kerry Colott says he won a lot of his matches in high school and kids wrestling because he was just sheerly stronger than everybody else. But he went on to win, make the world finals a few times, and won some NCAA titles. So obviously he did the technique part as well. But he even admits it, that youth wrestling can be very dangerous because, the hot shot, God-given super freak athlete's going to win a lot of the stuff, okay? So if you're one of those kids, understand that it's going to come to a screeching halt. You're not going to be winning the Olympics by the time you're 12. You're probably winning because of athleticism and toughness and just sheer power. And you might be on the losing end of that too. So if you're on the losing end of that, do these things that I said, but understand it may not turn your whole life around. Some of us are just kind of late bloomers, right? I was like 81 pounds when I was a freshman. So I was late to get big, right? I didn't start growing really until college. It was miserable. So I've been on that side of it too. Maybe you're someone who started late. Maybe you're someone who, haven't had the coaching and workout partners. Okay, so there are some things that are just kind of outside of your control. But, generally speaking, if you think about the 95-5 rule, master this, and that's practice plan, and then you move into like what phase 2 we could call it, and now we're focusing on the core skills still, but also the more advanced guys and girls do different stuff. They do the same stuff that everybody else does because at the end of the day, wrestling is wrestling, just like baseball is baseball. The proper way to catch a grounder for a 6-year-old is no different than the proper way that a St. Louis Cardinal catches a grounder because why? Baseball is baseball, wrestling is wrestling, but you know what? It's good to know what the next layer of core skills is, and then we start getting to phase 2 and phase 3. And like I said, if you go to PurlerWrestling.com, get our online wrestling academy, blow your mind, master that. Colton Schultz, Nick Lee, Victor Voinovich is at Iowa now. Colton Schultz is at Arizona State, won some world titles in high school. Stefan Mishik, he got my program. He was crying as an 11-year-old, couldn't figure out wrestling. His dad did some research, bought my stuff, worked with his son in the basement. Now he's wrestling in the world championships in 2 weeks. So there's been a few famous guys. Noah Sturton's going to be famous. He's at Mizzou. Some guys, studied our system and thousands of others too, right? It's very popular actually. Just because you never heard of it doesn't mean it's not being used by everybody else because it is. The kids beating your butt probably are using it. So our online academy could be beneficial for you. But if you just kind of want to map it out with a pen and paper and kind of come up with your own ideas, go ahead and do that. But you got to start somewhere, and we got to understand that we need to master the core skills of wrestling. So 95-5 rule, then we move up to phases, and then we're mastering kind of like how to hit a shoulder slip, how to counter a shoulder slip, how to key lock, 3 ways to counter a key lock, how to counter a hip lock or a wizard position. What's a cradle counters, okay? Some of these types of things. How to sprawl in a circle, how to get hip pressure. Feet wide, chest tight, knees off the mat, push and slide. That's the 4 steps to sprawling and hip pressure, right? So you're probably not sprawling correctly, and you're probably not sprawling in a circle. So, start looking at these core skills of wrestling, and it's like magic. You're going to start winning, and then once you start winning, what's super awesome once you start winning is now you have the interest level to do a little stretching, to lose that extra 5 pounds, to get to where you can, you start picking up heavy weights twice a week, maybe 3 times. You start running some hill sprints. You start doing some of these extra things. You start going to some bigger tournaments. You start reading some books on the performance and the sports psychology side of wrestling. It gets very exciting. So, people who are winning are doing something different than you are. And there's a good Jim Rohn, who's a famous kind of developmental coach from back in the day. And he's like, the ultra successful people, they don't talk like you talk. They don't walk like you walk. They don't act like you act. They don't use the words that you use. They don't hang out in the same places that you hang out. They hang out in different places. They're not reading the same books that you read. They don't listen to the same music you listen to. They don't have the same conversations that you have. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, right? And that's the reason people join country clubs, is so they can kind of get around the elite level people who are they're operating on a different level here. Why does one guy coach wrestling and one guy, coaches wrestling at a high level? They're doing something different. Why does one guy, he's a small town dentist, and another guy's retired and he's got 30 dental offices and he's got dentists working for him? He's doing something different. He's at a higher level, okay? Why does one guy get to go wrestle at Cornell University and everyone else is just getting their head ripped in and they're excited because they're all conference? That guy's at a different level. He's doing something different than what you're doing. So, start to evaluate these things, start kind of trying to do what these elite level guys and girls and coaches are doing, and put yourself on a different track. Good luck.